A new offseason target has entered the chat. How the Orlando Magic have another path to add players and the risks that come with it today on Locked On Magic.
You are Locked On Magic, your daily Orlando Magic podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And you are indeed Locked On Magic. Today is June 2nd, 2025. My name is Philip Rossman-Reich. I am the senior writer over at OrlandoMagicDaily.com, credentialed member of the Orlando Magic Media since 2011 or thereabouts, somewhere in that vicinity. Time is a flat circle. On today's episode of Locked On Magic, a new target has emerged in the rumor mill gristle. How the Orlando Magic have another path to add players, but one that comes with tremendous risk. We'll talk about that coming up here in just a moment. First, we want to thank you again for making Locked On Magic part of your day every day. No matter when you listen to us, whether it's first thing in the morning, whether it's right when we upload, we truly appreciate you making Locked On Magic part of your day every day. We truly appreciate you making Locked On Magic your first listen of the day. We truly appreciate everyone who listens to us every day. We just passed 4,000 subscribers on YouTube. The goal is to get to 5,000 before the start of the season. That would be awesome. Got a lot going on this month. We'll be doing draft preview. We'll be doing off-season preview as we get to the end of June and the NBA draft. Just 3 weeks to go. 3 weeks from Thursday, I think, is the NBA draft. So a lot to get to. Thank you for making Locked On Magic your part of your day every day. Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Today's episode of Locked On Magic is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. It has been widely assumed that the path for the Orlando Magic to improve this offseason has been trades. Jeff Weltman mentioned it very specifically at exit interviews, saying, kind of in the phase of swapping contracts. It is a period now where it feels like it's time to upgrade parts of the roster. Obviously, always time to upgrade parts of the roster. But with where the Magic are at financially, the first apron concerns, the luxury tax concerns, how suddenly expensive this Magic roster is, and knowing that it will get more expensive with Paolo Banchero's extension kicking in 2 years, the Magic, or next season, not 2026, 2027, it's been widely assumed that the Magic are not going to spend in free agency. I put together a list of minimum free agents already. We'll go over some of that list and maybe a little bit later in the month. That might be a this week thing. That might be a wait until July thing. The Magic are going to have to really scrap to put together their roster. Even like what I did in the Locked On mock draft still requires work to the roster. I've had people say, well, if you're doing all this stuff, your roster is really unbalanced. I'm like, yeah, no, I agree. There's still work to do. Draft night's going to be very important. It's going to set the path for this team and tell us what's possible, but there will still be work to do in July. The one thing we haven't really considered, the one thing that has been difficult to calculate, is whether the Magic will enter free agency at all. Now, the way things currently stand, the Magic do not have the tools to do much in free agency. It's not a big free agent summer anyway. There are some big free agents, but really it's the Brooklyn Nets and the Detroit Pistons, I believe, are the only teams with like real cap room to spend. There's rumors about Detroit going after Naz Reid, which feels very unnecessary considering how big that team already is. They want a floor spacing big, so I get that a little bit. Those rumors have some legs. They have the money. Minnesota's a second apron team. But as now Minnesota loses in the conference finals again, they are a second apron team. Attention turns to another player, another free agent on the Wolves, Nickeil Alexander-Walker. The sharpshooting wing from the Wolves had an excellent postseason, had some big games, had some big moments. And yeah, he's a shooter. He fits what the Magic need. According to Mark Stein on his Steinline Substack, the Orlando Magic are expected to be one of the teams fishing around for Nickeil Alexander-Walker using the non-taxpayer mid-level exception. I will explain how the Magic can use that in a minute because, as always, the rumor is less about who's involved in the rumor and more about what it means. Because, of course, the Magic are interested in a player like Nickeil Alexander-Walker. Nickeil Alexander-Walker averaged 9.4 points per game and made 38.1% of his threes on 4.5 attempts per game. In the playoffs, he averaged 8.3 points per game, but shot 44% on 3.3 attempts per game. So again, playoffs, things slow down, stars get more touches. He's an excellent three-point shooter. Last season, according to data from Second Spectrum, he made 42.5% of his catch-and-shoot three-pointers. That's where a lot of the Magic's three-pointers would come from. So to say the least, yes, there should still be a big move in there somewhere. The Magic would probably still need to maybe swap out a Kentavious Caldwell-Pope or Jonathan Isaac, another $15 million player. But Nickeil Alexander-Walker would be the exact kind of free agent target they should go after. I'll put another name in the hat. The Magic should also be fishing around for Malik Beasley, the Detroit Pistons sharpshooter who was the second best three-point shooter in the league last year, or made the second most threes in the league last year. A player who not single-handedly, but very realistically helped shape and shift the Detroit Pistons offense. The Pistons do not have bird rights on him. Now, they have cap room, so I do expect them to re-sign him. But Malik Beasley would be another player to chase with free agency money. Now, free agency is free agency. And you have to have the ability to go out and get players. And so I'll explain how the Magic enter free agency in the second segment. But as always, when it comes to these specific rumors, like I'm not doubting Mark Stein's reporting. I do agree. I think the Magic should be interested in Nickeil Alexander-Walker if they can free the money to get him. But it's more about what this means. A, we know the Magic needs shooting. They should be attached to every shooter who's available. Anthony Simons, attached to him. Austin Reeves, attached to him. Malik Beasley, if he's even thinking about leaving Detroit, attached to him. Ty Jerome, another potential free agent that the Cavs are going to have a real difficult time re-signing because they don't have bird rights. Attach your name to him. So it is important that the Magic, and that everyone understand that the Magic have this ability to enter free agency. And so what this rumor means to me is less about, the Magic are interested in Nickeil Alexander-Walker. Of course they are. They should be. What this means to me is that we have to recognize another door opens for free agency, or another door opens in the offseason. And that door is free agency. We have assumed, because the Magic are such a cash-strapped team right now, and they're not cash-strapped, they're not like hurting or anything, but they're going to be paying the luxury tax for the first time since 2012. They are flirting with the first apron because of all the contracts that they've built up. They do have to recognize that, hey, Paolo Banchero is going to jump to at least $42 million per year next season. That he is not going to be on his rookie contract. He's going to get a max deal. They're going to be flirting and doing this apron dance for a long time. So how do the Magic have the money to outbid the Wolves for Nickeil Alexander-Walker, to outbid the Pistons for Malik Beasley? They may not be able to outbid either. But let's talk about how the Magic enter free agency. We're going to get to that coming up here in just a moment. But first, today's episode of Locked On Magic is brought to you by Monarch Money. It's June. We're all getting ready for July. We're all talking about money. We're talking about contracts. We're talking about salary caps. This is the money episode, and so it is great that this episode is sponsored by Monarch Money, because nobody can help you manage your money, help you manage your budget quite like Monarch Money. We're all dealing with first aprons of our own. It's usually our paycheck. We're not able to spend more than we bring in. And so Monarch Money comes in to be your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. When you start using Monarch, you realize just how much you're spending on food delivery, so now you can budget smarter and save more. Instead of juggling multiple apps or managing your own Excel spreadsheet, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan long-term goals. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNBA for half off your first year. So this episode is about throwing away some conventions and some assumptions that I've admittedly made. I did not expect, and I do not expect, the Magic to be big players in free agency. Yes, I think that they will make some small moves on the margins. I think that they will add some key kind of low rent, like minimum level players. And those players will be really, really important. Maybe the Magic try and use their taxpayer MLE, which is about $5 or so million. That's kind of the move that I'm looking for, because I think the Magic really do want to avoid the first apron. I think that is one of the goals they have for this offseason, is to stay under that first apron and kind of keep that little bit of flexibility. Or at least if they're going to be over the first apron, be over by enough, by such a small amount that it would be very easy to get back under at the trade deadline, so they're not dealing with those penalties heading into the offseason or dealing with repeater stuff, which builds up over time. And then look, the Magic probably going to be a repeater tax team here coming up. So just consider that. But how do the Magic enter free agency? How do the Magic get to an ability to use the non-taxpayer mid-level exception? The non-taxpayer mid-level exception allows teams over the cap to sign one player or multiple players to contracts totaling $14.1 million. Now, $14.1 million is probably enough to get you Nickeil Alexander-Walker. Nickeil Alexander-Walker made about $4 million last year. He's due for a big pay raise. It's the same deal with Jerome. It's the same deal with even Malik Beasley, who was on a 1-year, $6 million deal with the Pistons last year after he kind of went in Milwaukee. There are players very clearly that are available for that full, or if not most of, that non-taxpayer MLE. So how do the Magic get there? Get your pens and papers out. Let's do some math. We've done some of this math before. We've talked about this a little bit before, and I'll get to this here. Next season, the Magic are slated to have $175.2 million in guaranteed salary. That includes the estimated max extension. The final number will come down very soon. Max extension for Franz Wagner, that starts at an estimated $38.7 million. Jalen Suggs also at $33 million. The Magic have $175.2 million in guaranteed salary next year. That does not include rookies. That does not include the team options, which I will get to here in a minute. The Magic are already above the salary cap by about $20 million. Now, that part is irrelevant. That just means they're paying a tax on that. That means they're not over the luxury tax line at this point. But that part's irrelevant. That just means they have fewer tools to sign players. So the way you sign players now is exceptions. Rookie exception. You can always sign your first round picks. That is always a guarantee. The mid-level exception, like I said, the biannual exception. You still have tools to add players, but you obviously can't, we're not talking like Kyrie Irving. We're not talking sign and trades. You have to get under the salary cap to do sign and trades, or make enough trades to get under the cap to sign the player that you're trying to sign. You can't just swap players anymore. That rule that the Magic used for Rashard Lewis, for Grant Hill, for Tracy McGrady, that rule's gone. They don't do that rule anymore. They understood that it became a workaround. So the Magic are already $20 million above the cap, but there's with just their guaranteed contracts for next season, they are $12.7 million below the $187.9 million luxury tax line. That means that, yes, the Magic have at least part of their non-taxpayer mid-level exception available. The Magic, I think, if I'm not mistaken, if I understand the rules correctly, the Magic can spend 12.7 of that $14.1 million and be okay. And because they'll be under the tax line. If I'm understanding the rules correctly, they have at least a portion of that tool to sign players. Now, this is where it gets tricky. to access that ability to be under the tax, to spend the non-taxpayer mid-level exception in whole or in part, whatever the case may be. The Magic would have to decline team options on every player they have this summer. That's Moe Wagner's $11 million. We're going to get to him. That's Gary Harris's $7.5 million. That's Corey Joseph's $3.5 million. And Caleb Houston's $2.2 million. Now, they own bird rights on Wagner, Harris, and Houston. So when you own bird rights, that means you've had a player under contract for 3 more years. You can always go over the cap to re-sign your own players. When you have bird rights, you are unlimited in how much you can pay those players and still retain their rights over the cap. They have cap holds. Those are only important for signing free agents. They're already over the tax. Cap holds aren't important. We talked a lot about cap holds last year and some of those cap mechanics. The Magic, in order to access the non-taxpayer mid-level exception, would have to waive essentially all of those players. Now, of those players, Caleb Houston and Moe Wagner are really the only 2 we expect the Magic to have some decision about. Now, decision day on this is June 29th. We will know by June 29th what the Magic are going to do with these players. So let's start there. The Magic can create the room under the luxury tax to use the non-taxpayer mid-level exception. But it comes with this cost. You lose the right to control whether you retain any of those 4 players. And again, Magic fans certainly aren't going to be crying about Gary Harris being gone. It feels like it's time. That's an easy spot to replace. Corey Joseph was a good veteran, was always meant to be a 1-year deal. Would not shock me if he is back. We talked with Keith Smith about this a few weeks ago. Would not shock me if he is back, but I think declining that team option is the right call anyway. You do have some early bird rights on him, I believe, so you can sign him to a limited amount. But again, he's a minimum player anyway. It's not that big of a deal. Caleb Houston is certainly a player that you've been invested in. He has shown some good signs. I don't think it would be crazy to retain him. And obviously, Moe Wagner is, as we're going to talk about here in a minute, a real essential player on this team, a player who just means a lot to this team and helps elevate this team in some significant ways. It does not feel like it would be a good decision to part ways with him at this juncture. So this is the conundrum. Because on top of, let's say you cut those 4 players were in the rotation last year just to sign Nickeil Alexander-Walker to a $12 million deal to, let's say, 4 years, 48. Let's just keep the math simple. 4 years, 48, 336, whatever you want it to be for Nickeil Alexander-Walker. Now you are paying him that extra amount. Then you're going to add Moe Wagner back. Maybe you get him back on a 3-year, 24. You decrease his salary, but increase his years, give him a little more security. And then you're paying whatever you're paying for the trade that you're going to make too. At the end of the day, this is all part of the same issue, the same conundrum, the same math problem of how do we stay under the first apron? Orlando has $99.9 million in guaranteed salary for the 2027 season before we account for Paolo Banchero's extension or Kentavious Caldwell-Pope's final year on his 3-year deal, which is a player option. For now, we're just going to assume the roster stays static. It also does not include Anthony Black's $10.1 million team option. As I mentioned, Banchero in his max extension is going to make $42.5 million if he doesn't make All-NBA and $51 million if he makes All-NBA. I'm just saying this to get you used to the numbers. That's the max contract for Paolo Banchero. Assuming they pick up all those options, the Magic's guaranteed payroll for the 2027 season is $182.6 million. The luxury tax line is projected currently to be $206.7 million, and the first apron is $215.5 million. The Magic, if I'm doing my math correctly, and I promise, I warned you there would be some math, the Magic would still have $24 million in wiggle room before the tax next season, 2027, and $33 million before the apron. So if you're signing Nickeil Alexander-Walker to a $12 million deal and bringing back Moe Wagner, even if you re-sign him to another two-year, $22 million deal, that eats up all your room before the tax for next season too. And that doesn't include your draft pick, which would probably climb you over that first apron. And so this is all the consideration. Now, again, who knows what's going to happen? We'll see where the dust settles. We'll redo all this math and redo everything after the season ends, or after the offseason ends and quiets down. But the Magic are trying to avoid, are dancing around this first apron. They're going to be a tax team. They'll dip under the tax sometimes. They'll stay above it other times. The Magic are dancing around this line. And while it doesn't appear that being aggressive in free agency this summer would dramatically change their outlook in 2027, it would certainly make them a tax team this year, which we're expecting, and would certainly make them a first apron team, perhaps a first apron team in 2026, but a potential first apron team in 2027. Let me throw one more little nugget at you here, and I think this is really important. And this would limit what the Magic do with Moe Wagner. If you use the mid-level exception, you are hard capped at the first apron. If you use the non-taxpayer mid-level exception, you are hard capped at the first apron. You cannot exceed that. And so, if you're signing a Nickeil Alexander-Walker to, let's say, $12 million, that means you are limited in what you can bring Moe Wagner back on. And that is the central question now. Yes, the Magic can enter free agency. Yes, the Magic can be aggressive. Yes, the Magic can get a quality player probably with the money they'll have. And they're an attractive place. But the cost could be one of the biggest players on their team. So let's review it. Why Moe Wagner is so important. We'll get to that coming up here in just a moment. At the end of the day, I think a lot of this debate and a lot of the questions that the Magic front office are probably asking themselves has to do with Moe Wagner. It all comes back to Moe Wagner and how much the Magic value him, how important he is, and yeah, to some extent, how much faith they have in his recovery to get back to the level of play. The Magic have been playing this dance with Moe Wagner for a few years. This isn't the first time we've sat here and said, oh, Moe Wagner is a team option. He could be gone. It happened the last 2 seasons. Orlando signed him to a 2-year deal 2 years ago, or 3 years ago now. Declined that second year on the option and signed him to a fresh 2-year deal, a 2-year, $22 million deal. They took care of him, gave him a little bit more money, gave him another year. He seemed pretty happy with it. Although if you watch the Wagner brothers documentary, it's a lot of stress in there. I watched that like right after Mo's injury and was just like, oh, I feel he does not deserve this. That dude, because I remember like sitting there, like, we talked about it as like, look, the Magic are going to decline Moe Wagner's team option. That is a cap mechanic to create cap room. They're going to bring him back. And that's still generally the feeling. Like, even if the Magic declined Moe Wagner's $11 million option, it's widely assumed the Magic want him back. It is just a cap mechanic. It would be a way to get under the luxury tax so that you could use the non-taxpayer mid-level exception. Again, you just have to be cognizant and aware of the first apron, of the hard cap, of all that stuff. So the question then is Moe Wagner worth it? I think that the answer is unequivocally yes. I think that it is abundantly clear that Moe Wagner is worth that price. Before his injury last year, he averaged a career high 12.9 points per game and 4.9 rebounds per game, made 30 appearances and 18.8 minutes per game. His 36% three-point shooting led the team for most of the year until Caleb Houston and Corey Joseph, caught fire toward the end of the year and passed him. He finished third. Because Wagner is one of the few players with an offensive mindset and just wants to put the ball in the basket, as Jamal Mosley joked several times, Moe Wagner wakes up scoring 10 points. The Magic averaged 40 points per game off the bench before Wagner's injury. That was the 5th most in the league. They dropped to 33.3 per game after the injury, and that was 23rd in the league. The Magic went from having one of the best benches in the league and one of the highest scoring benches in the league to one of the lowest. And as we look at this NBA Finals, with the way the Oklahoma City Thunder play, with the way the Indiana Pacers play, Indiana Pacers have one of the best scoring benches in the league. Depth matters. And look, the Magic don't make the playoffs without their depth. Obviously, injuries played a major role. There were a lot of guys out, a lot of guys who are normally on the bench having to start. Maybe the bench distinction doesn't matter. Injuries cut into the Magic's depth, and that is one of the Magic's superpowers. But even during the Magic's late season run, they still only averaged 33.4 points per game off the bench, still in the bottom 10 in the league. Having a guy like Moe Wagner, who's going to give you 13, 14 points, sometimes boost himself up to 20 off the bench. Having a guy like him who can reliably do that is transformative for this team specifically. He may not be the greatest pick and roll roller. He may not be the greatest post-up player, but he knows how to put the ball in the basket. He knows how to run the floor. He knows how to put himself in scoring positions. And when he gets the ball, he wants to freaking score. Like, that's not nothing. That's not irrelevant. The Magic get a lot out of Moe Wagner. The Magic gain a lot from Moe Wagner. And that is just uncontroverted. His injury was devastating because not only did the Magic lose a key player, they lost a player that helps them keep their heads. Like, yeah, Moe sometimes feels a little bit like a hothead. Moe sometimes, lets the emotions get to him. And look, he's always trying to needle, and he's that kind of guy. He gets under people's skin, but he's always in control. Like, honestly, I don't think the issue is that Moe is out of control or anything. He's always in control. But yeah, he's really important. And the fact that the Magic will not have him until December, possibly, maybe even January, that is something you have to consider too. Because look, the Magic are in the business of winning now. They don't have time to wait around on injured players. They need players who can produce. And with ACL injuries, it takes a year to come back and a year to get back to full health. So if you're keeping Moe Wagner, that is a 2-year investment. We're probably not going to see the best version of Moe Wagner until December or January of 2027. And that's okay. Like, Moe deserves that patience. He has earned that patience. He is someone that has seen this team built up from the very bottom, from the very dregs. He has invested in this team and in what they're doing as any player on this roster. Moe Wagner is super important. Is super important for this team. But the Magic have to consider all these financial consequences. They have to consider all the finances that come with keeping him. And so when June 29th comes around, Moe Wagner's option is one of the key decisions. If the Magic decline the option on Moe Wagner, that likely means they are playing free agency. They're going to go after a free agent with their non-taxpayer mid-level exception and bring back Moe Wagner again. Probably on a smaller deal, probably on a smaller salary, but on a longer deal. Give him the long-term security that I think he really craves. And that the Magic clearly believe in him enough. They've structured his contract to get out of it easily. I don't think they want to. But the decision on Moe Wagner is an essential decision this summer. And it's one we will be watching very, very carefully. I want to thank you all again for listening to today's episode of Locked On Magic. You, of course, find me on Twitter at PhilipRR_OMD and on Blue Sky at PhilipRR. You can subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, Himalaya, Google Play, Spotify, Odyssey, and all of them still podcasts to your podcast-enabled listening device. You can find us on YouTube as well. Just search for Locked On Magic. For the latest on the Orlando Magic, be sure to check out OrlandoMagicDaily.com. You can find us there on Twitter at OMagicDaily. And for even more Orlando Magic content, be sure to check out my Patreon page where I'm doing my player evaluation series, starting to get to the starters. You can find that at patreon.com/Orlando Magic Hub. As always, thank you for your support. Now that you're done listening to us, be sure to check out the Locked On NBA Big Board Show. NBA draft expert Rafael Barlow reacts to every workout, interview, and rumor leading up to the NBA draft. Find Locked On NBA Big Board on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. That's going to do it for me today, though. I want to thank you all again for listening to today's episode of Locked On Magic. We'll be back tomorrow. We'll talk some draft. I want to get to some players that I'm interested in to replace Magic players that could be on the way out. We'll get to a couple prospects there. We'll do that tomorrow on Locked On Magic. But until then, for Orlando Magic Daily and Locked On Magic, this has been Philip Rossman-Reich. We'll see you all again next time for another episode of Locked On Magic.